how is it that Trae's able to do what he's been able to do the last two games at the Garden in these two playoff games?
Well, Keyshawn, I mean, it's just some players are just wired differently. Some players just mentally are able to handle whatever's thrown at them, regardless of the pressure situation. Now, this young man has been pretty much his entire career, high school, college, because of his slight stature in terms of his size. He's been bullied every single level that he's played on. All right, here's this guy. Oh, he thinks he's so good. Look how small he is. So he's been having teams play physical against him, go after him, and try and take him out throughout his career. So he's used to it, and he has the mental toughness to deal with it. We always talk about talent. We always talk about skill. But what's up in between the years is so often the big difference between whether a player reaches their potential and becomes a star or just kind of relies on their talent. And once in a while you see that. And some guys just have that mental toughness. This young man has that mental toughness in addition to all the wonderful skills that he has.
Yeah, thriving on a stage like that with that type of fans screaming at him the whole game. Mike Breen joining us right now on the Goodyear Hotline tonight. Celtics Nets. That's the 8:30 game on ABC. Of course, he'll be on that call. And the Celtics are facing an 0-3 now against the Nets team that just looks indomitable. And the series now moving to Boston, and it's interesting to hear Kyrie Irving and this is before the fan incidents became headlines. He's suggesting, let's just keep it to basketball. Let's not have any issues there. And but he heads back there. The Nets look like a team that's very tough to beat. And this is an interesting game on many levels because the Celtics just haven't been themselves all year. And there's so many questions now surrounding them, Brad Stevens, and Danny Ainge.
Yeah, no, it's been a really frustrating year for the Celtics and the fans. And you said it, Alan. They haven't been right. There's a few teams that they haven't been right all season long. You'd see an occasional spurt of, oh, okay, that's what they're capable, but nothing on a consistent basis. Miami's the same way. Miami's been the same way. And a lot has to do with the circumstances of the season. The Celtics were really, really crushed by COVID. Miami was as well. But between injuries and the COVID stuff and just quite frankly, poor defensive play at times, they've not had one stretch where you really start to believe in the team. There's always they played pretty well, but man, they just don't look right. And now tonight with the game, not sure if Kemba Walker's going to play. He's questionable coming in. So it's been one of those years where despite the talent that they have, they just were never able to put it together. And now they're going up against a team that every single game Brooklyn seems to gain more confidence and gain more feel for each other. They can be so unstoppable. It's such a scary team how well they're playing at times, and they're still obviously not at the peak in terms of being comfortable with each other and everybody back together again after all the games that were missed.
All right, Mike, so lots to get into as we continue through the playoffs. But for you in your chair, how would you describe being back in arenas with fans? I mean, you've managed to give us tremendous energy even in empty arenas, but I know it's been special for you too, right?
Oh, my goodness. It's like I said this all season long that, I always appreciated the fans and loved the fans. I had no idea how much that I missed them until they came back. The quote that I've said over and over again, it's not my quote, it's one that I read, and I can't remember who said it, but the fans are the oxygen of pro sports. Mm-hmm. And they just breathe that oxygen into every single game. And if you're at the arena, it's just the most wonderful feeling. You get caught up into it. And even if you're at home watching, you can feel that crowd pouring through your television, for crying out loud. And for me calling the game, I just love watching the players play, but when you have a raucous crowd like the Garden has had the last couple of games, you can't help but get caught up into it. It has been so wonderful, and I just keep saying I will never underappreciate what the fans bring to every game ever again.
Mike, you have been in that building for some of the biggest moments, and you've heard the crowd at its apex. I've been told by people that were in the building on Wednesday that they've never heard it that loud, and it wasn't capacity. Now, it might be just we're caught up in the excitement and all that stuff. It might be. But I got to ask you, have you maybe it's just the atmosphere, whatever it is, but can you compare it to anything in the past, what you heard Wednesday night, that Obi top and dunk? I think the roof blew off after that.
Yeah, it's obviously hard to say, oh, this was the loudest crowd I ever heard, but those two games, and not just the victory for the Knicks in game 2, game 1 as well, those are two of the most memorable nights for me ever at Madison Square Garden. The emotion in that building was like nothing I've ever seen. And it wasn't just because, the Knicks had missed the playoffs 8 years in a row, and it wasn't because, they had so many rough years and finally the fans had somebody to cheer about. And I think a lot of it had to do with the pandemic, and people weren't around each other. It's like, I've said this a couple of times, we'll watch those videos of the family reunions of people who haven't seen their mother or father or their siblings in over a year because of COVID. And all of a sudden they get together and the emotions come pouring out, and they're so touching and wonderful to watch. What was like, it was the Knicks family reunion. They hadn't seen each other in over a year. These 15,000 people who have this bond and this incredible love and loyalty for their team. Now they're together of a team that they have fallen in love with because of the way they played. So everything together, it was like the perfect storm. And I saw fans crying after the national anthem of game 1 and when the chants started. And I got emotional as somebody who's been in that building his whole life, to see that kind of atmosphere and that kind of emotion from fans that wasn't just basketball. It was about, okay, we are really getting back to normal. This is the life. And now all our Knicks family members are with us again. It was a really special night.
Yeah, the word is catharsis. That's certainly what it felt like. Mike, great to talk to you. Thanks so much this morning.